Good afternoon. I'm Carla Boulton. I am the Education Director with FBLA-PBL, and joining me today are Kim Doherty, one of our PBL NAT members, and Jackie Geiselman, one of our FBLA NAT members, to discuss our competitive event processes and some things that you can use to implement to help you as the competitive event season gets started. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in and talk about some of our interesting things that we have going on. The first thing with all competitive events, and I've gotten several questions this week and last week, how does an event work? What happens with an event? So my first answer to everybody at this time of year is you need to check your state guidelines first, because until it comes time for May, June, and July, when we're actually having our FBLA and PBL competitive events, all states are able to run their competitive event process. So I would encourage you to check with your state advisors and check your state handbooks so that you know what is expected, and also watch your deadlines. I'm the former state advisor for Missouri, and my advisors heard me say quite often, deadlines are not suggestions, so make sure that you know your deadlines and that you're able to follow them. For more information about our national competitive event program, it's very important to watch the dates when your dues must be paid. For FBLA, you must have your dues paid by March 1st in order to be able to compete at the National Leadership Conference. For PBL, you have 1 month longer. You have until April 1st to pay your dues and make sure that they are paid in our system. And so our National Leadership Conference dates for PBL, it's June 24th through 27th. And for FBLA, it's June 29th through July 2nd. And those will be in Chicago, Illinois this year at the Hyatt Regency downtown, which is a lovely facility with lots of space. PBL will have a great time, and FBLA will have a great time as well. Two big dates to watch. They're very important, and these are receipt dates. These are not postmark dates. These are receipt dates, and things must be received. And that is May 8th, for all the prejudge submissions that come in, so your digital video projects, your websites, your e-business, all of your reports, all those things, those must be received here in Reston by the close of the working day on May 8th. So that's a receive date. And the production tasks, so your computer applications, your accounting 2, your spreadsheet, your database, your word processing, all of those, they must be received by May 15th. So those are really big dates for us. So attending NLC, each division is a little bit different with the amount of entries you can have. So they are, for PBL, each state gets to have 3 entries in any event that's an online test only. So if it's an objective test only, each state might have 3 entries. And so they may also have 2 entries in any event that has a prejudge component or performance. So it's a 3 and 2 for PBL. For FBLA, each state may send 4 competitors and the objective test only events, and they may send 3 in all other events, anything with a prejudged or performance component. And that's a bit of a change for FBLA this year, the 4 and the online test only. So individuals, how many events can each person do? For PBL, each member may be in 2 events for NLC, and for FBLA, each member may be in 1 event that you've qualified for. You have to qualify. You may be in 1 regular event and then 1 chapter event. So our chapter events are American Enterprise Project, Community Service, Local Chapter Annual Business Report, and Partnership with Business. So our next pieces are, and Kim left us really briefly there, I see. So our next piece is what is new and updated with PBL. So we'll just go over those quickly. For PBL, we have a brand new event called Forensic Accounting, and students will receive their case study approximately 24 hours before they perform. They'll have a day to get the presentations ready and then go before the judges, and we'll do that for preliminary and finals. And then they have a new presentation event. Social Media Challenge is a new event for them. It's very similar to a new event in FBLA, the Social Media Campaign. For PBL, our modified events are emerging business issues, where teams will present both the affirmative and the negative sides, and the time for that has been increased to 7 minutes. Local chapter annual business report has increased, or decreased rather, in the amount of pages to 15. And the strategic analysis and decision-making event has been changed to where it's a year-long topic that students have time to prepare and then present to judges. So that's a change to that event. And so, Jackie, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, you want to tell everybody about our some of the FBLA changes?
Absolutely. Did you want me to go along with the PowerPoint or just in general?
If you want to hit those that are on the slides that you have, and then in general as well, either one.
Absolutely. And so let me pull that up. First and foremost, we have our new event 3D animation, which is individual or team. Is that the slide that you're interested in? Perfect. And we are going to be recording that as a video presentation, and it will be a student-produced product performing 3D animation. Secondly, we do have our two Microsoft Office Specialist events that are based on the certification offered through Microsoft Office. This is for Excel and Word. For those who are looking for more computer production events and more events that are offered for the technology side of things, this is where we are adding on for that. And then we have sales presentation, which is an individual event, and this event will be based on the sales process. And Carla, correct me if I'm wrong, but it really is not limited to what the student sells as long as they can transport it themselves.
That's correct. That's correct. We don't provide any shipping.
Yes, exactly. Or going out to the parking lot and selling a car. And then next we have securities and investments, which is a new individual objective test. And finally, as Carla mentioned, in relation to the PBL event, we have social media campaign, which is individual or team presentation, where they will be using 3 different social media platforms to create a campaign for their FBLA organization. And then as far as the modifications that we have for FBLA, electronic career portfolio, the guidelines and the rating sheets have been modified. And so I would definitely recommend double checking in the chapter management handbook to make sure that everything is up to par, to make sure students are completing all the necessary items. And then for emerging business issues, as opposed to drawing a pro or a con and presenting either of the sides, the teams will be presenting both sides, and these individuals, those presentations have been increased 2 minutes, so a 7-minute presentation to accommodate that additional information that'll be necessary. And then along with the local chapter annual business report, that has also been reduced to 15 pages, and the rating sheet has been updated. And then public service announcement, a script is required to be provided for our judges in advance.
Well, actually, I think we eliminated that.
Oh, excuse me, that had been eliminated. Thank you, Carla.
We had a lot of discussion on that.
We did, and that was my mistake. Yes, we did choose to get rid of the PSA script, considering the length of the presentation, and I apologize for my brain fart right there.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so, one of the questions that I got a lot, both as a local chapter advisor and as a state advisor, is what do I study? Where can I go to prepare, and how do I prepare? So one of the things that I think is the best resource that is provided by FBLA-PBL is our online reference guide for both divisions. And these two web pages can be found by clicking on your division on FBLA-PBL.org, and then clicking down to competitive events, where you will see the events list. I'm going to attempt a short screen share here. And I apologize if it's a little small to our viewers, but we have all of our events listed and the type of event, whether it's an individual or a team, the career pathway in which it falls, sample rating sheets that we use, and if it's an online test, our competencies are listed, and these competencies are the exact same thing that we give to our test writers. And that's what they see. That's what they write the questions to. So if you study these, if you look through these competencies that are listed, you will see the exact same thing and know the exact same thing that the test will be written to. So that's the best place that you can go to study for that type of thing. We also offer our competitive event study guide through the FBLA-PBL marketplace, and there's one for each division. I always use Uncle Google, that's what I call Google, Uncle Google, to search for your event and those event topics and find lots of interesting information. And one of my mentor advisors, she always suggested that students would study the textbooks, and not just like read the textbook, read each chapter, but look through the glossaries in the textbook, look through those keywords and become familiar with those. And then one of the best references for learning what to do and how to improve is talking to people who competed in the event previously, because they're the people who've been through the process. They kind of know how to overcome the nerves of sitting there with so many people trying to do the same thing. So asking fellow chapter members or other people in your state who have gone through the same process, I think, is really key. Jackie, what would you say in addition to any of that?
I would highly, highly recommend, as you mentioned one of your advisors does, is going through the glossary and the key terms in the specific topics that the students are studying for and looking at those competencies. From what I've experienced as a local chapter advisor and now in the position as a state advisor, if students understand vocabulary, that is the strongest tool that they can have in order to make sure that they understand the competencies and understand the objectives that are set forth. And so that's something that I highly encourage as well.
Well, thank you for that. So one of our specific type of events are our objective test, and those are 100 multiple choice questions. At the national level, they are given in a computer lab. There'll be one computer per person. For these objective test only, the collaborative test we'll talk about in a little bit. And some sample events that this would fall into: accounting 1 for FBLA, cybersecurity for PBL, introduction to business, those type of things. And it's just a matter of coming in and taking the test. And it is a 1-hour timed test. So practicing that can really assist you. And then our next type of events are interview events. And one of the biggest things that you can do for interview events is make sure that you're leading up to the event, make sure that your application materials arrive here in Reston on time for the national competition, or to your state director for your state conferences, or to your regional people or district people at that level of your competition. But making sure that the application materials are correct and that they include everything they need to include, and that things are labeled properly. It is really hard at the national level if things aren't labeled properly to make sure then that all those materials get to the proper judges in the proper section. So if you make sure that things are labeled properly as they're asked for in the chapter management handbook, it goes a long way to making sure those pieces get to the judges. But the next biggest thing is when you arrive in that interview room is a firm handshake and good eye contact with your judges. You cannot practice mock interviews too much, so find a business person to assist you, principals, advisors, parents, other students, and practice as much as you can. And then always have a question or two prepared that you want to ask at the end of the interview that shows your interest and shows that you've paid attention and makes the interviewers think a little bit. And our events like this are job interview, obviously. Future business executive for PBL is also like this. And then for future business leader, We have the interview in the FBLA division, but also an objective test. So, Jackie, would you add anything for our interview type events?
The only item I would have to add is for the professional documentation that they need to make sure they get in on time, that the format guide is a great resource for how to format those business letters and cover letters and letters of application, and that they make sure that those documents are polished and clean and not too much white space, because that truly is the first impression that the judges have of the student competitors.
I agree. I agree on that. So our next group of events are our reports, and our reports are all submitted digitally now as a PDF instead of the print copy, and we've made that move over the last couple of years. The biggest thing to watch is make sure that your report cover includes everything it needs to cover. Watch your number of pages, because in many cases in the recent year or two, we've had a reduction in the amount of pages for these reports. And it's very, very important that you follow the order of the rating sheet. Judges, you want to make it as easy as possible for the judges that are grading the actual report. And the best way to do that is to go right along with the rating sheet and format your report in such a way that it follows that very concisely. Just read and those guidelines on that again. That's the biggest thing I would tell anybody. Proofreading is also key. Have as many people read as could. Jackie, what about you on reports?
I would agree with just making sure those guidelines are read and reread and covered, as well as the pacing of the report, making sure that it's easy for the judges to follow, well labeled. And then also as well, speaking from the state level and depending on your states, be careful that you're not counting a page that has 2 or 3 words on it as a page, and looking at those page numbers, making sure your content is sufficient for judges to actually review and look at.
Oh, that's, yeah, and probably size 32 font is not appropriate
Yes.
there either.
Exactly. Make sure you're following a business report guideline.
Our next type of events are role play. So Jackie, you want to tell us about our role play and events?
Sure. So a little bit of the background with the role play events, depending on the area, but some of these actually have a objective test that will actually allow for the participants to get to the role play scenario. And so just being aware of that. The team events requiring written test and performance evaluation, that there is that pre-assessment value. So when I'm speaking with students, I make sure that they actually are aware that they need to know the content. They don't just automatically get to go to the role play scenario, which some of them are looking forward to, that they need to know what they're talking about before they talk about it. Teamwork is really important. One thing to be careful of is with all the team members, that they are sharing the spotlight, that not one team member is participating the majority of or actually presenting the majority of the role play, that they take turns. And that goes for judges as well. If they're in a situation where there are multiple judges at the table, that they are sharing the eye contact and sharing the interaction, not just speaking with one judge. There should, however, be a designated leader of the group to help with that and help with the flow of the conversation, but making sure all team members participate. And then the top teams, as mentioned, will advance to the performance. And yeah, just making sure that all team members treat all judges equally and that participate in the role play itself.
And I would say that's something we've heard a few times from judges, is that team member didn't even look at me, didn't even acknowledge my presence. So it's very important that each member of the team acknowledge each of the judges. And as Jackie alluded to, that several of these events have an objective test that determine our finalists who actually come forward to do the scenario. And those collaborative tests are going to equal at the national level 1 computer and 3 chairs. And so everything that you would do to study for an objective test as an individual applies also to the collaborative team, but you have an ability to share the wealth a little bit. If you would print off one of those guides where the competencies are, one for each team member, and have those team members go ahead and highlight what they know and what they know well, or reverse that and have them highlight what they don't know. Then you're able to see what you need to focus your study on as a group, because there's no sense in relearning what somebody already knows in that type of a group situation. Okay, our next section is our Prejudge Projects, which also include the presentation. So these would include things like our brand new 3D animation for FBLA, our website events, digital video, digital design and production, those type of events. So again, guidelines are very important. Following that topic is very important. Looking at the rating sheets is very important. And making sure things arrive on time is crucial, because you don't want your project to arrive 3 days after things have gone to judges. So you need to make sure that the things arrive on time, make sure that you get them to your state people on time, so if they're sending them to us, that they have plenty of time to do that as well. Have as many people look at those as possible, and have them use that rating sheet, the Prejudge rating sheet, to look at those and offer you feedback, some of which you might choose to take and some which you may not. But the more input you can have on those, you can refine your project. And one thing I would say, I know a lot of you are getting ready for your early winter and spring contests, is do not wait till the last minute to begin. While I've seen some really good projects that haven't had a whole lot of time spent on them, the best of the best have. So make sure you don't wait for the last minute to start. Jackie, what would you say about any of those?
I would agree with the deadlines. Again, to quote you, Carla, they are not an option. They are a deadline. Making sure that your students and the team members are prepared and have actually put the time and the effort into the events that they are submitting, because similar with the interview materials, this is the judge's first impression of the team. And then also in regards to performance, Carla, would it be appropriate to speak about that right now?
That's our next thing, so just jump right in.
Perfect. That really making sure that you have a backup plan. I know a lot of members and participants have spent a lot of time working on these projects, working on the reports, working on the presentation. However, technology is never a guarantee, and so making sure that there is a backup plan in case technology fails. You forget your converter, you can't figure out the presentation model, whatever might happen, just have a backup plan for that, so that if students are in the situation where it's not going as planned, that it doesn't create more nerves than necessary. And so that's the biggest thing, based on the projects that are prejudged and pre-submitted, that you make sure that the presentation is exactly what you expect it to be, even when it's unexpected.
I would agree with that. You know, we try to be very specific in which events we allow or we provide internet, but sometimes, you know, the hotel internet crashes and there's absolutely nothing that we can do to prevent that, as much as I wish we could. So try to have that, anything that you're going to have, try to have that backup and just ready to go. Or if you can't get your computer hooked up to the projector right, just flip your computer around and show that PowerPoint or your presentation straight off your laptop to the judges. They will not take that as a bad negative on you. They'll be impressed that you were able to roll with the punches and go immediately into your plan B without a blink. So having that plan B and plan C even ready will be a benefit to you and help ease your nerves as you go in that. So you're ready for any type of thing. And you know, those presentation tips would apply to also our speaking events, like public speaking or business presentation, any of those type of things. Just be ready. So Jackie, it's the day of competition. What would you tell people?
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's the day of competition. What are you going to tell your competitors?
Day of competition, I would say it starts actually the night before, and making sure that you don't let nerves get the best of you and that you are getting a good night's sleep, because that does make a big difference, especially being at a competitive component, be it at your regional conference or at state conference. Maybe this is your only chance to see some of your friends from not at your school. It's still important that you make sure that you get a good night's sleep and that you are preparing yourself in the morning. It sounds trite, but to have a good breakfast where you'll have energy throughout the day. I know our high school students in particular, maybe some of our younger PBL students, really enjoy those energy drinks, and the caffeine boost in the morning may not be the best idea for nerves. So just making sure that they're making good lifestyle choices the night before and day of. And then really start thinking about how you are going to present yourself to the judges, making sure you've taken time to iron your outfits. That's a big tip. They've seen the presentations in some cases, or your projects in other cases, but in a lot of situations, your first impression is when you walk into the room with the judge. So make sure that you are put together, that your outfit is put together well, and that just helps encourage the confidence. And then day of competition, remember that you are the expert on your events. Your students are the ones who participated and have prepared. They know best, and the judges will be impressed with confidence and with owning their projects.
I completely agree. And one thing I'm going to add to the competition day, especially at the national level, allow more than enough time to arrive at your competition area early. If you've been to an NLC before, sometimes it is a wait to get to an elevator, to get up or down to wherever you need to be. Sometimes you're going to be on a bus to get to where you need to be. So make sure that you've allowed more than enough time to arrive at your destination at least 15 minutes early. Sometimes events run early. You might be able to get in and get out, but make sure that you are at your event room 15 minutes early. And so that gives you time to calm your nerves, take a deep breath, and get ready to go in and present yourself in the best possible light, because you've earned it. You've earned it. And I want everybody to go show the judges what they know. The last thing, and it's always the fun thing, it's the dress code. So Jackie, do you want to say anything about the dress code?
Sure. I actually am going to steal a quote from one of my advisors, and I think this is great advice, that to any of your students when they are getting ready, that if they look in the mirror and think, dang, I look good, they're wearing the wrong outfit. They need to go change. That professional attire is professional attire. It's not necessarily what has been portrayed on TV or in different models. It is professional attire. So careful of skirts, careful of heel length, careful of the new trends. Young men, I've seen a lot of skinny suit attire lately that some judges just don't appreciate. So I always recommend erring on the side of conservative and true standard professionalism, not necessarily the new hot trends or clubbing outfits.
I would have to say that that's absolutely correct, and I can remember a situation in a couple of years ago where we had a panel of judges that thought a young lady's shoes, while technically they did follow the dress code, they definitely did not think that this pair of shoes was suitable for the business world. So, and it was that one little thing that could have made a difference just in perception between first place, second place, or not placing at all. So definitely conservative is good. We do have a dress code. It is posted in our materials. So I would encourage anybody to look at that and then go conservative, because you can't go wrong that way.
And Carla, also just to add at that, especially at the national level, especially in those presentation events, those really are the best of the best when we get to that level of competition. And truly, it might be a matter of dress code that is the tiebreaker for some of our judges. And so just keeping that in mind and making sure that everyone on the team and every individual is put together and representing business in the best way possible is important, because it can be that make or break.
I completely agree on that. So that kind of ends our talking points that we had today. Jackie, do you have anything else to add that would be your one great tip for competitive events?
I think that, as I mentioned before, just remembering that in the performance components, the students, the participants are the expert, and if they are confident and they have ownership over their events, that is the best way to sell their ideas and sell their presentation. And I think that's a really, really great way to differentiate yourself from other participants. So even if there are nerves on the inside, just fake it till you make it, and that really does help students.
I would agree. I would agree. If any of you have any questions about competitive events, please do not hesitate to email me. My email address is very simple. It's education@fbla.org, and I hope to see many of you in Chicago this summer. So, Jackie, thank you very much for joining me, and we will see everyone soon.
Thank you.